I found the house key on my kitchen table. My door was locked. My windows were shut. I lived alone. No one else had a key to this apartment. But there it was, sitting in the center of the table like a warning. It was the key to my old house, the one I had left behind 2 years ago. The house where a stranger had lived under my roof, pretending to be someone he was not. The man who had vanished without a trace. He had found me again. My name is Emma. I am 27 years old. For the past 2 years, I have been running from a memory I cannot escape. But to understand why that key terrified me so much, I need to take you back to where it all began. Back to the small house where I used to live, where my quiet life shattered in ways I never imagined possible. I used to live alone in a cozy little house on the edge of town. My days were simple and predictable. I worked from home, building websites for small businesses and local shops. The work was steady, but the pay was modest. My savings were thin, and the bills kept coming. The house felt too big for just me. The guest bedroom sat empty, collecting dust. One evening, as I scrolled through my bank account with a sinking feeling in my chest, I made a decision. I would rent out that extra room. It seemed like the perfect solution. Extra income. Maybe even some company to fill the silence that had begun to weigh on me. I posted the room online and waited. A few days later, a message appeared. A man named Daniel Wright wanted to rent the space for 1 week. I clicked on his profile. Everything looked legitimate. Clean profile picture. Friendly bio. He explained that he was traveling for work and needed somewhere quiet to stay. His tone was polite and professional. I felt no alarm. I accepted his request immediately. Within an hour, the payment came through. Fast and efficient. I remember thinking how easy it all was. How smoothly everything had fallen into place. I told myself this was a sign that things were finally looking up. On Tuesday evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, he arrived. I opened the door to find a tall man standing on my porch, a single small suitcase in his hand. He smiled warmly. "Thank you so much for letting me stay," he said. His voice was calm and gentle. I stepped aside and welcomed him in. I showed him to the guest room. He looked around, nodded approvingly, and thanked me again. He seemed kind, respectful, normal. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a quiet satisfaction. I had a guest some extra money, and the house felt a little less lonely. Everything seemed perfectly fine. The first 2 days passed without incident. He was an early riser, always up before me. I would hear the soft creak of the floorboards as he moved about quietly in the morning. He kept to himself mostly, but whenever we crossed paths, he was polite and courteous. He told me his name was Daniel. He said he was a writer working on a new book. He needed peace and quiet to focus on his ideas. I liked that. It made sense. Writers need solitude. I felt I could trust him. He seemed genuine. But then, small things began to feel wrong. Little details that did not quite add up. His phone would ring throughout the day, sometimes multiple times in a row. But he never answered it. Not once. He would glance at the screen, his expression unreadable, and then let it ring until it stopped. I found that strange. Who ignores their phone so consistently? And his laptop. It was always closed. Every single time I entered a room where he had been sitting, the laptop was shut. No open tabs. No work visible. Just a closed screen and silence. One night, I woke up suddenly. The house was dark and still. I glanced at my phone. It was past 2 in the morning. My throat was dry, so I slipped out of bed and padded quietly toward the kitchen for a glass of water. As I passed the living room window, something made me pause. I looked outside. There he was, standing in the garden, perfectly still. His back was to the house, and he was staring out at the street as if he were waiting for someone. The streetlights cast long shadows across the lawn. He did not move, just stood there in the cold night air, watching. I froze. My heartbeat quickened. What was he doing out there in the middle of the night? The next morning, I tried to bring it up casually. I saw you outside last night, I said, forcing a smile. Is everything okay? He barely looked up. I like the night air, he replied simply. Nothing more. His tone was flat, final. I did not push further, but something about the way he looked at me made my skin crawl. His eyes were distant, unreadable. There was something hiding behind them, something I could not name. On the third day, I was sitting in my bedroom working when my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. I hesitated. I rarely received calls from numbers I did not recognize. Curious and slightly annoyed, I answered. A man's voice came through the line. Hello, this is Daniel Wright. I am calling about the room I rented from you. I will be arriving next week. I just wanted to confirm the address before my trip. My blood turned cold. My hands began to tremble. I could not speak. I could not breathe. From the kitchen, I heard the sound of footsteps. The man in my house was moving around, making himself at home. I gripped the phone tighter. My voice came out as a whisper. You said your name is Daniel Wright. Yes, the man on the phone replied, sounding slightly confused. That is me. Is something wrong? My mind was spinning. The real Daniel Wright was on the phone. The real guest was supposed to arrive next week, which meant the man living in my house right now, the man I had let into my home, was not Daniel Wright. He was someone else entirely. A stranger. A liar. Someone who had stolen another man's identity to get inside my house. But why? What did he want? What was he planning? I ended the call abruptly, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I sat frozen on my bed, trying to process what I had just learned. Fear flooded through me. I was alone in this house with a man whose real name I did not even know. A man who had deceived me from the very beginning. I forced myself to breathe slowly. I had to stay calm. I had to be smart. Panicking would only make things worse. I decided to test him, to see if he knew that I knew. I walked into the kitchen where he was standing by the counter. My voice shook as I spoke. Daniel, I said carefully. Where did you say you were from again? He turned to look at me. His expression did not change. You do not remember? He asked. My throat felt tight. Just remind me, I said, trying to sound casual. He tilted his head slightly. I think you already know, he said quietly. The air left my lungs. He knew. He knew that I had figured it out. Oh, right, I stammered, forcing a weak smile. My memory is terrible sometimes. I stood up quickly, my legs unsteady. I am really tired. I think I will head to bed early tonight. I did not wait for a response. I turned and walked as calmly as I could toward my bedroom. I did not look back. I could feel his eyes on me the entire way. As soon as I reached my room, I shut the door and locked it. I leaned against the door, trying to think. I was not safe here. This man, whoever he was, had lied his way into my home. He had been watching me, studying me, and now he knew that I knew the truth. I had to leave. I had to get out of this house right now. I grabbed my phone and my keys. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and stepped into the hallway. The house was dark, silent. I moved as quietly as I could toward the front door. My heart was hammering in my chest. Just a few more steps. Just a little farther. Then his voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Going somewhere, Emma?" I spun around. He was standing in the doorway of the living room, his arms crossed, his face calm. Too calm. "I just need to run to the store," I said quickly, my voice shaking. "I will be back soon." He stepped forward. "You already know, do not you?" he said softly. "You know I am not Daniel." My entire body went rigid. I could not move. I could not breathe. "Who are you?" I whispered. He smiled. A cold, unsettling smile. "I am not here to hurt you, Emma. But I need you to listen to me." I did not want to listen. I did not want to hear anything he had to say. Fear gave way to desperation. I lunged forward and shoved him as hard as I could. He stumbled backward, surprised. On the table near the door, there was a heavy metal lamp. I grabbed it, lifted it above my head, and brought it down on him with all the strength I had. He cried out and crumpled to the floor. I did not stop to think. I threw the door open and ran outside into the night. I screamed for help at the top of my lungs. My voice cracked with terror. Lights turned on in the neighboring houses. Doors opened. People came running. Someone called the police. Within minutes, sirens filled the air. 2 officers approached me as I stood trembling on the sidewalk. They asked me what happened. I told them everything. The stranger, the lies, the fear. They listened carefully, then entered my house to search for him. When they came back out, their faces were grim. The man was gone. Not just him, but everything. His suitcase, his clothes. Every trace of him had vanished. It was as if he had never been there at all. The officers checked security cameras in the neighborhood. No footage of him leaving. No sign of where he had gone. They asked for his name. I told them Daniel Wright, but they found no one matching that name or description. No fingerprints. No identification. No proof that he had ever existed. For weeks after that night, I could not sleep. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound made me jump. I was terrified he would come back. Months passed slowly. Eventually, I moved to a new apartment across town. I changed my phone number. I tried to rebuild my life. I wanted to feel safe again. Then one evening I came home from work. I unlocked my door. I stepped inside. And there it was. A house key, sitting in the center of my kitchen table. It looked exactly like the key to my old house. The house I had fled from. My door had been locked. My windows were shut. No one should have been able to get inside. But someone had. He had found me. I called the police immediately. They searched the apartment. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of anyone being there. But I knew. He was out there. Watching. Waiting. 2 years have passed since that night. The police searched for him for months but found nothing. The real Daniel Wright, the man who had booked my room, knew nothing about what had happened. He lived in another city, completely unaware that someone had stolen his identity. Sometimes I still see the stranger in my dreams. His face, his voice, his cold, knowing smile. I know he could come back at any moment. And if he does, I do not know if I will be able to escape again. I am still waiting, still watching, still afraid. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a good mystery, and subscribe so you never miss another story. Thank you for listening.